What if I told you that you might be leaving thousands of dollars on the table every single year, not because you're careless, not because you're uninformed, but because you were born just a little too early? Here's the truth that will make your blood boil. Millions of Americans born before 1955 are collecting Social Security checks that are hundreds of dollars too small each month. And the reason? They simply don't know the rules have changed. The system they paid into for decades has quietly shifted beneath their feet, and now they're getting shortchanged without even realizing it. Today I'm going to show you exactly why this is happening, and more importantly, what you can do about it before your next check arrives. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine working for 40 years, showing up every single day, paying into Social Security like clockwork. You did everything right, you trusted the system, and now in retirement, you're watching your monthly chakra stretch thinner and thinner, trying to cover groceries, medications, and heating bills that keep going up. But what if I told you that your check could be bigger? What if I told you that you might be entitled to thousands more each year, and you don't even know it? Here's what's happening. The Social Security system isn't one size fits all. It's actually a complex set of rules that change depending on when you were born. If you were born before 1955, you're operating under a completely different set of regulations than someone born just 5 years later. And those differences can cost you big time. The government has made over 40 changes to Social Security since 2000 alone. That's more than one change every single year. But here's the kicker. Most of these changes don't affect people who are already collecting benefits. They affect people who are about to start collecting. And if you were born before 1955, you might be in that group right now. Think about this. The average Social Security check for someone who retired at full retirement age in 2025 is about $1,900 per month. But if you were born before 1955 and you filed at the wrong time, you could be getting $400 to $800 less than that every single month. That adds up to nearly $10,000 per year. That's just gone. Poof. Vanished into thin air because you didn't know the right moves to make. And it's not your fault. The system is designed to be confusing. The Social Security Administration sends out statements that are harder to read than tax forms. They use jargon that makes your head spin. They don't spell out the strategies that could put more money in your pocket. In fact, they're legally prohibited from giving you advice that might reduce their own costs. So today I'm going to cut through the confusion. I'm going to explain exactly why your birth year matters so much. And I'll show you the 5 critical mistakes that people born before 1955 make that cost them thousands. And more importantly, I'll tell you exactly what to do instead. If this is making sense to you so far, do me a quick favor right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification. Every week I break down another piece of the retirement puzzle so you can keep more of your money where it belongs. Let me take you back for just a minute because understanding how we got here will help you understand what's happening to your check. Social Security was created in 1935, but the rules we live with today are the result of dozens of changes over the decades. If you were born before 1955, you grew up with a different system than your kids and grandkids. You remember when full retirement age was 65. That's what you planned for. That's what you expected. But starting in 1983, Congress began gradually raising the full retirement age. For people born in 1955, full retirement age is now 66 years and 2 months. For those born in 1960 or later, it's 67. But here's what most people don't realize. The changes didn't just affect when you could collect full benefits, they also changed how much you get at different ages, and they changed the rules for spousal benefits, survivor benefits, and even how your earnings are calculated. Let me tell you about Linda. Linda was born in 1953. She worked for 35 years as a teacher. She planned to retire at 65 and collect her full Social Security benefit. But when she went to file, her neighbor mentioned something about file and suspend. You know, a strategy that could boost her benefits. Linda had never heard of it. She filed for Social Security at 65 and started collecting her $1,800 per month. What Linda didn't know was that if she had waited just 6 more months to file until she turned 66 and 2 months, her full retirement age, her benefit would have been $2,100 per month. That's an extra $300 every single month, $3,600 every year, simply because she didn't know about the age requirement for her birth year. But it gets worse. Linda also didn't know that as a divorced woman, she might be entitled to benefits based on her ex-husband's record. Her ex-husband had a much higher earnings history, and his benefit at full retirement age was over $3,000 per month. Linda could have collected up to 50% of that amount, $1,500 per month, without affecting her ex's benefit at all. That's an additional $1,500 per month she could have been collecting, but she never filed for it because she didn't know it existed. Linda's story isn't unique. I hear from people like Linda every single day. Good, hardworking Americans who are getting shortchanged because they don't know the rules that apply specifically to their birth year. If this information is clicking for you, I want you to do one thing real quick. Hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds and it helps more people like you find this video when they need it most. So what can you actually do about this? Let me break it down into simple steps. The good news is that even if you've already started collecting Social Security, there might still be time to fix mistakes and boost your benefits. First, you need to understand your full retirement age. This isn't 65 anymore, folks. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66. But if you were born in 1955, like Linda, your full retirement age is 66 and 2 months. For those born in 1956, it's 66 and 4 months. And it goes up from there. Why does this matter? Because the age you file directly impacts how much you get. For every year you wait past your full retirement age up until age 70, you get an extra 8% per year. That's huge. But if you file early, you get hit with a reduction. For every month you file before your full retirement age, your benefit gets reduced by a certain percentage. Here's the magic number you need to remember, 35. Social Security calculates your benefit based on your highest 35 years of earnings. But here's what most people don't know. If you have fewer than 35 years of earnings, they still use 35 years to calculate your average, which means you get 0 credit for some of those years. That drags down your average big time. So if you have only 30 years of earnings history, Social Security is adding 5 zeros into your calculation. That's like throwing away 5 years of work. But you can fix this by continuing to work, even part-time, in those missing years. Every additional year you work replaces a 0 with an actual earnings figure, which boosts your average and gives you a bigger check. But wait, there's more. If you're married, divorced, or widowed, you might be eligible for benefits based on your spouse's or ex-spouse's record. Here's the deal. You can collect up to 50% of your spouse's full retirement age benefit if you wait until your own full retirement age to file. And if you're divorced, you can still collect on your ex's record if you were married for at least 10 years and haven't remarried. The problem is that the Social Security Administration won't tell you which strategy is best. They'll give you information, but they won't say, hey, based on your situation, here's what you should do. That's why you have to educate yourself. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever faced one of these situations? Your story might help someone else who is going through the same thing right now. Now let me tell you where people really get into trouble. There are 3 massive mistakes that I see over and over again, and they all stem from not understanding the rules for your specific birth year. Trap number 1 is filing too early without understanding the reduction. Here's how it works. If your full retirement age is 66 and you file at 62, you're taking a 25% reduction for the rest of your life. That's permanent. It doesn't go away. And if you're still working while collecting early benefits, you might also get hit with the earnings limit, which means Social Security actually takes back some of your benefits if you earn too much. Trap number 2 is not coordinating benefits with your spouse. This is huge. Let's say you're both the same age. If you both file at the same time, you might be leaving money on the table. Sometimes it makes sense for one spouse to file early while the other waits until 70 to maximize their own benefit. This is called a restricted application, and it's one of the most powerful strategies out there. But here's the catch. The restricted application strategy is only available to people who reached age 62 by January 1st, 2016. That means if you were born before 1955, you might still be able to use it. But if you were born after 1954, you're out of luck. So timing matters, folks. Your birth year determines which strategies are even available to you. Trap number 3 is not understanding survivor benefits. Here's something that will blow your mind. When one spouse dies, the surviving spouse gets to keep the higher of the 2 benefits, but they lose the smaller one. So if you're both collecting Social Security and one of you dies, the survivor's income drops by 30 to 50% overnight. That's a massive hit to the household budget. But there's good news. If you understand the rules, you can plan for this. You can make sure the higher earner delays their benefit until age 70, which maximizes that survivor benefit. That way, if one spouse dies first, the survivor gets the biggest possible check for the rest of their life. Let me tell you about Frank. Frank was born in 1952. He started collecting Social Security at 62 because he wanted the money right away. His benefit at 62 was $1,200 per month, but his full retirement age benefit would have been $1,800, and if he had waited until 70, it would have been $2,376. Frank's wife, Margaret, was a stay-at-home mom who never worked outside the home. She collected a spousal benefit based on Frank's record, which was $900 per month. When Frank passed away at 78, Margaret's income dropped from $2,100 per month, $1,200 plus $900, to just $1,800, the survivor benefit based on Frank's record. But here's the tragedy. If Frank had waited until 70 to file, Margaret would have gotten $2,376 for the rest of her life. Instead, she's struggling to make ends meet on $600 less per month. Frank didn't know. He thought he was doing the right thing by starting early, but he was leaving his wife in a tough spot because he didn't understand the long-term consequences. Can I ask you something? Have you been paying any of these bills without realizing you did not have to? I want to know because your experience is going to help someone else in the comments. All right, let's get practical. Here are the exact steps you need to take starting today to make sure you're not leaving money on the table. Step 1, find out your full retirement age. Go to ssa.gov and create a My Social Security account. This is free, and it will show you your earnings history and your estimated benefits at different ages. But here's the key. Look at the age when your benefit maxes out. That's your full retirement age. Don't rely on what your friends say or what you remember from years ago. The rules have changed. Step 2, get your earnings statement and check it for errors. Social Security calculates your benefit based on your 35 highest years of earnings. But what if they missed a year? What if they recorded your earnings wrong? This happens more often than you'd think. Look at each year and make sure the earnings match what you actually made. If you see a mistake, contact Social Security right away to get it fixed. Every extra year of earnings can boost your benefit. Step 3, if you're still working and you have fewer than 35 years of earnings, keep working. Even part-time work in your 60s can replace some of those zero earning years, which will increase your average and give you a bigger check. And if you're earning more now than you did earlier in your career, those higher earnings will replace lower earnings from your past, which also boosts your benefit. Step 4, if you're married, sit down with your spouse and compare benefits. Look at the age difference between you, look at who earned more, and figure out who should wait longer to file. Sometimes it makes sense for the higher earner to delay until 70 while the lower earner files earlier. This strategy, called Claim Now, Claim More Later, can increase your household income by tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Step 5, if you're divorced and you were married for at least 10 years, check if you're eligible for benefits on your ex's record. You can collect up to 50% of their full retirement age benefit without affecting their benefit at all. And the best part? Your ex doesn't even have to know you're doing it, but you have to be at least 62 and unmarried to qualify. Step 6, if you're a widow or widower, make sure you're collecting the survivor benefit you're entitled to. Sometimes you can switch from your own benefit to a survivor benefit or vice versa to maximize your income. This is complicated stuff, so you might want to talk to a financial advisor who specializes in Social Security. If you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe, because next week we are going to dive even deeper into another strategy that can protect your retirement savings. Let me walk you through a real-life example so you can see exactly how this plays out. Meet Bob and Susan. Bob was born in 1953, Susan in 1955. They're both 72 now. Bob worked as an accountant. Susan was a nurse. Their combined lifetime earnings put them in good shape for retirement, but they made some decisions about Social Security that cost them big time. When Bob turned 62, he was eager to retire. He filed for Social Security right away. His full retirement age was 66, so filing at 62 meant a 25% reduction. His monthly check at 62 was $1,500. If he had waited until 66, it would have been $2,000. And if he had waited until 70, it would have been $2,640. Susan, on the other hand, kept working until she was 66 and 2 months, her full retirement age. She filed for her own benefit and started collecting $2,200 per month. Sounds pretty good, right? A combined income of $3,700 per month. But here's where they went wrong. They never coordinated their benefits. They never considered the restricted application strategy that might have been available to them. And they never thought about the survivor benefit. You see, Bob passed away 3 years ago. When Bob died, Susan's income dropped from $3,700 per month to just $2,200. The survivor benefit based on Bob's record. But here's the tragedy. Bob's benefit at his full retirement age was $2,000. If he had waited until 70 to file, Susan would be getting $2,640 for the rest of her life. Instead, she's struggling on $400 less per month. And it gets worse. Bob started collecting at 62, which means his benefit was permanently reduced. That reduction carried over to Susan's survivor benefit. So not only did Bob shortchange himself, he also shortchanged his wife for the rest of her life. What could they have done differently? Well, if they had known about the restricted application strategy, Bob could have filed for Social Security at 66, but suspended his benefit. This would have allowed Susan to collect a spousal benefit based on Bob's record, $1,000 per month, while Bob's own benefit continued to grow until he turned 70. At 70, Bob would start collecting his maximum benefit of $2,640, and Susan would switch from the spousal benefit to her own benefit of $2,200. That strategy would have given them a combined income of $4,840 per month instead of $3,700. That's an extra $1,140 every single month, or $13,680 per year. Over a 20-year retirement, that's over $273,000 in additional income. And the best part, that higher benefit would have continued for whichever spouse survived the other. Bob and Susan's story is playing out in neighborhoods across America every single day. Good people who are leaving a combined $250,000 on the table because they didn't understand the rules. If you know someone who needs to hear this today, do me a favor and share this video with them. It might be the most helpful thing you do for them all week. Now let's talk about some special situations. What if you're divorced? What if you're still working? What if you live in a community property state? The rules change depending on your specific circumstances, so let's break it down. If you're divorced, you might be eligible for benefits on your ex's record even if they've remarried. The key is that you were married for at least 10 years, you haven't remarried, and you're at least 62 years old. But here's something most people don't know. If your ex hasn't filed for Social Security yet, you can still collect benefits based on their record if you've been divorced for at least 2 years. That's right, you don't have to wait for your ex to start collecting. If you're still working, be careful about the earnings limit. If you're under full retirement age and you earn more than $21,240 in 2026, Social Security will deduct $1 from your benefits for every $2 you earn above that limit. But once you hit full retirement age, the earnings limit disappears completely. So if you're still working, it might make sense to wait until full retirement age to file, even if you're eligible earlier. If you live in a community property state, Arizona, California, Idaho, Louisiana, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Washington, Wisconsin, the rules are different. In these states, Social Security benefits may be considered community property, which means they could say they could be divided differently in a divorce. But the basic eligibility rules are still the same. What if you have a pension from a job where you didn't pay Social Security taxes? This is called the windfall elimination provision, and it could reduce your Social Security benefit by up to 50%. But there are exemptions and ways to minimize the impact. You need to understand how this applies to your specific situation. And what about government workers? If you work for a state or local government that doesn't participate in Social Security, you might be subject to the government pension offset. This could reduce or eliminate your spousal or survivor benefits based on your spouse's record. But again, there are rules and exceptions. The bottom line is this: your birth year is just the starting point. Your marital status, your work history, your pension situation, all of these factors interact with the Social Security rules in complex ways. That's why it's so important to educate yourself and, if necessary, consult with a professional who understands all the nuances. Before we wrap up, if you have not already, please hit subscribe. I have so much more to share with you, and I do not want you to miss a single video. So let's recap the 3 most critical things you need to remember from today's video. First, and most importantly, your birth year determines your full retirement age and which strategies are available to you. If you were born before 1955, you might have access to strategies that younger people don't. But if you wait too long to learn the rules, you might miss your window of opportunity. Second, Social Security is not one size fits all. The decisions you make about when to file, whether to work, whether to coordinate with your spouse, these decisions have lifelong consequences. A difference of just a few months in your filing date can mean tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Third, the system is designed to be confusing, but that doesn't mean you can't master it. The information is out there if you know where to look. And you don't have to figure it all out on your own. There are resources, there are professionals, and there are people like me who are here to help you navigate this complex system. At the end of the day, a successful retirement is really just about keeping as much of your own hard-earned money in your own pocket as humanly possible. You hold the power here. You just need to know how to use it. So go out there, make those phone calls, fill out that paperwork, and refuse to pay the bills you don't owe. If this video helped you today, please make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love hearing from you. Next week, we're going to dive even deeper into one of the most powerful Social Security strategies out there, the restricted application. If you were born before 1955, this could be a game changer for you. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it.